What do you think makes a good record?
To answer your actual question, I think production is a big deal.
Everybody's tastes are different, and there's lots of different genres.
Being catchy is helpful for a good record.
Something with a good hook line that you can sing along to.
Hello, my name is Alice Randall. Welcome to this documentary on what makes a good record. For many years, I've been a worker for musicians, I have, and they've often wanted to know how they get their records, distributed and promoted on the radio and through many other forms of media, such as even PR companies and stuff. So in this documentary, I'm going to investigate that. We start off in Brighton, which is one of the most biggest cities for music, with 60 annual music festivals a year. A popular way for bands and musicians to get gigs is through booking agents. We are now going to speak to Will, and he's going to tell us what booking agents do.
There's agencies that hold on to bands. Once a band gets to a certain level, they get an agent will take them on, and then the agent will then approach promoters. There's lots of agencies out there. There's local agencies like Joy and Melting Vinyl, and who else? The Bright Stones. So basically, they will, or London promoters, big agencies will approach us and see if we've got the date available, and then book the venue for themselves. Or alternatively, if I do it myself, I'll find traditionally the local bands that are just starting up, and I'll approach them or they'll approach me, and if I like what I hear, then I'll put three bands together and hopefully advertise it well and get people along and have a good night.
Booking agents are effective as they offer to open doors that otherwise couldn't be opened. However, for musicians and bands starting out, the disadvantage is booking agents take a 20% cut. Musicians and bands can resolve the problem by using their own contact list, or they can use other platforms like Kickstarter to take bookings themselves. Some musicians and bands release music independently. Sarah, a musician from Brighton, told me about her experiences.
Really hard as an artist nowadays because you used to get money from just selling songs, like in the form of records, say, but now it's all from streams, or it's from brand partnerships, or it's from whatever that is, and sync and stuff like that. So it actually becomes really hard if you're just making your own music to make any money from it, because obviously you get next to nothing for a stream. So as a musician, I've been able to make an okay amount of money doing function stuff, but for my own music, I'm barely making anything. It's actually been really hard in terms of like the industry itself trying to get some kind of recognition from that, because you're just a drop in the ocean of all of the song. I think Spotify and all of those streaming sites have made people very fickle about music, very casual about music, and the stuff that blows up or that has loads of streams, it could just be because people are passively listening to it in the background. I guess like it's let people see more genres than maybe they would have before, because like they would have been priced out of trying something new. But ultimately, I think the actual backlash has been bad. Musicians need to get paid more for their time, for credit, for whether it's writing credits or whether it's not even necessarily function. I think function as an industry probably pays all right, but even they could probably do more.
How musicians state 23% of musicians said they do not earn enough to support themselves and their families. And nearly half, 44%, say that the music industry has a lack of a sustainable income and it is a barrier to their music career. A lot more musicians have done self-promotion themselves because they haven't got money. However, Rosie, a band manager, says this is not always the golden ticket to success.
As much as social media helps, there's also loads of more people who are also trying to sort of get themselves seen. So as much as you've got a bigger range to be able to contact more people, and it's a lot more accessible online, I'd say you're fighting with against a lot of other people to sort of get the spots and get booked. So I don't know if it's easier. It's an easier way of doing it rather than sort of going around handing out CDs to people directly online. But I wouldn't necessarily say you're as lucky, maybe, because you've got more people to fight against with.
Pete Jones is a presenter at Radio Reverb, who spoke to me about how community radio can be a great way for musicians and bands to be first heard and how it makes him feel as well.
New music show, Radio Reverb.
Southern Brunswick. That is the 2nd of April, so we've got a Welligan track. We've got Salter Kane, we've got Beth Sarah, Becca Hug It Again. Absolutely love this track, so good. I mean, the feedback that I've got over the years of doing this show is, and even tonight, even on this show, I've had messages saying this will be the first airing, this will be the first time this particular track has ever been played on air, on the radio. And it's such a buzz for them to have put all that work into a track and to tune in at a particular time and to hear it coming out of the speaker. All their work has been reflected. And I think it's great having national radio and, Six Music, BBC, Radio 2, Radio 1. But as well as I do, the chances of getting played on those stations is so remote, so hard. But if the artists can hear their music on community radio and it gives them that lift, and then, nowadays we can share stuff, so they can share that link. They can share a little clip that from this show, they can put it on their socials, and it validates them. And also, it almost acts like a CV, so they can now then approach BBC Introducing or local BBC and say, I've been played on Radio Reverb, and here's my little clip or whatever. So I think it is important, and it keeps them going, and it kind of energizes, because it's such a hard graft being an artist of any persuasion. Photographers, paint, music. So we need that little, reason to keep going. And I think community radio definitely fills that void. And my show is really aimed at just local. I keep it local.
She looks like she smokes cigarettes. Yeah, 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 she looks like she smokes cigarettes. Yeah.
I could not create this documentary without speaking to somebody from BBC Introducing, and that person was Melita Dennett. I asked her, what is the best way for musicians to get their music out there and to get on national radio and local? And here's her response.
From my perspective, doing radio, what I'm looking for radio is I'm looking for an immediacy in a track. So as soon as you hit play, something happens. It's not like 40 seconds for a beat going dum, 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 when you're waiting for it to happen. Brevity is good as well, because when you have a radio program where all the music is unfamiliar, there's no Ed Sheeran, there's nothing comforting for people there, because you're going to turn all these musical corners and nobody knows what's coming next. So brevity is good for radio. 3 minutes. A lot of people are doing sub 3 minute songs for the benefit of Spotify as well. It's like, much as I hate Spotify, I approve of that because it means I can fit more songs at them. So a song which keeps your attention for radio. If it's 3 minutes, it does what it does and then it goes away again. If it's longer than 3 minutes, it's got to take the journey. So it's got to have some twists and turns and some surprises in it. It has to take you somewhere. I'm also looking for something that will make people feel something. So it'll make them feel happy. It'll make them feel like they want to dance. The vocal will send a shiver down their spine. It'll surprise them. It'll make them want to bounce around. So all of those kind of things are the stuff that I'm looking for from a radio perspective. But good and bad, I'm not sure that good and bad are necessarily categories that I would subscribe to.
A lot of people say that PR is very expensive, but I spoke to Johnny Hopkins, who's worked with the group Oasis and who runs his own company, and tells me what some of the benefits are for musicians and bands.
But I sometimes hear people say that we don't need PRs, we can do it ourselves. The artist can do it themselves, or the manager can do it themselves. But, you know, to be honest, musicians have got the job of writing music, recording it, rehearsing it, playing gigs, doing media interviews, doing photo shoots, doing videos for songs and such like. Do they really have the time or the inclination to go and spend a chunk of their day on social media? Many musicians don't even like doing that. So PR is there to create stories, stories that are going to work in traditional media, you know, so websites, newspapers, magazines, TV, radio, but also smaller bite-sized stories for social media platforms. So you're creating stories, you're creating strategy, you're shaping a narrative around the artist, and generally speaking, if you're not a PR, you don't have the ability to do that or the contacts to deliver it.
So as we've learned in this documentary during the last 10 to 12 minutes, there are lots of ways that musicians can get their music heard from radio, PR and band managers. And one good thing is, people have different perspectives of what makes a good record, which is a good thing because at least music is not getting old. But one thing's for sure, no matter what part of the music industry musicians want to go into, there still needs to be improvements.